This Sunday on Capital Connection, the race against time. Doctors and nurses scramble to scrounge up enough protective gear to stay safe.
All of our locations were running low and close to running out.
And the record number of unemployment continues to rise in Illinois and across the nation. But people in the gig economy still can't apply for unemployment insurance in Illinois. We asked the Pritzker administration, what's the plan and when will it be in place? And can restaurants survive this extended period without customers? A former restaurant owner and current state Republican lawmaker Mike Murphy joins us.
Definitely a challenge. Some of them are trying to survive with drive up and carry out, curbside pickup.
We attempt to count the cost as economists and professors put together a study examining the crater the coronavirus put in the Illinois state budget.
In the worst case scenario, you're talking about $8 billion. In lost revenue.
It's all coming up on Capital Connection.
From the Illinois State Capitol Rotunda, Capitol Bureau Chief Mark Maxwell is asking the tough questions. This is Capital Connection.
Welcome to Capital Connection. I'm Mark Maxwell, reporting from the Illinois State House on this Sunday, April 12. Happy Easter and happy Passover to those of you celebrating. Thank you for joining us. Advances in the medical community and progress in the state's effort to procure and buy up enough personal protective equipment to protect our doctors and nurses has Governor Pritzker and Illinois Department of Public Health Director Dr. Ngozi Ezike seeing signs of optimism in our future as the state continues its battle against the coronavirus.
Our rate of rise is looking less and less exponential. That indicates to us that we are, in fact, bending the curve.
Antibody tests will play a critical role in the fight against COVID-19 by helping with identification of people who have actually overcome an infection and have developed the immune response.
If you've had COVID-19, there is a high likelihood that you are immune from getting it again. Unless it mutates or there's some other development of it.
There absolutely is still the risk of someone, even if they were personally immune, of them touching the virus, transferring it to another surface where somebody could pick up. So the donning of gloves would absolutely still be necessary.
This will help us going forward with the restarting of the economy. No matter how much is beyond our control, the buck stops with me, and we are still not where we need to be on the testing front.
Joining us now is Illinois Deputy Governor Christian Mitchell from the Thompson Center, the governor's office building. Can you provide an update on the state's effort to go out and buy this personal protective equipment, these gloves, these masks, gowns, and face shields that doctors and nurses need? Has that process, as chaotic as it has been, is it improving? Is there any sign that it's becoming easier for the state to track down these important pieces of equipment to help protect doctors and nurses?
Well, I think we've been successful in doing some of that work, and I think it speaks to the really, really good team we have here with Central Management Services, the Illinois Emergency Management Agency, and our Department of Public Health, and the strike team we've been able to put together. But to your question of whether it's gotten easier, the answer to that question is most certainly no. As you probably know, but as I want to share with your viewers, part of the challenge we have is that it really is the Wild West out here, and in so many ways, where the federal government could have stepped in, used the Defense Production Act, taken the middleman out of the equation so that we weren't dealing with a friend who's got a friend who's got a cousin who's got a guy. We're also competing with the federal government, and in many cases, we're also competing with foreign countries that are seeing their peak coming and are doing their very best to try to get ahead of it. So the truth is that the process has not gotten any better, thanks to the federal government not being the market mover. But having said that, I think we're doing pretty well. I think we're starting to get some of the stuff we need. We're chartering flights from China to get stuff here. It's been difficult.
We've talked about how the president's reticence to use the Defense Production Act has created chaos in chasing down the supply. But is it also ratcheting up the cost, and by how much?
Yes, so absolutely, you are seeing massive price spikes and price gouging. You know, normally an N95, I'm told, I'm not an expert on this, but I'm told it's about $1.50, maybe $2 a mask. You're seeing prices, if you're lucky, in the $4 to $5 range, and in many cases as high as $8, $10, $12. If you look at ventilators, for example, a low-end unit, one that is non-invasive but can still do important work, it's going to cost you, let's call it $13,000, $14,000. Those units are going to be somewhere between, $18,000 to $26,000. And if you were looking, for example, at an ICU ventilator, one of the deluxe units that really can do a lot of really good work for someone, those are normally, let's call it $35,000 to $42,000. Those units are going for $64,000, $65,000, $70,000. And that's the market we're fighting in. And the question is, do you try to wait for the market to return to normal? Well, no, you don't have time. So you end up paying a premium because, if you don't, you're going to lose life that you otherwise could have saved.
You mentioned the Wild West. I mean, people are literally getting in their cars, driving across the state with checks in hand just to procure this box of shipment.
Yeah, well, it's Lord of the Flies. I mean, you're in a situation where effectively you'll, have a deal that you think is pretty done, pretty cut, and someone will say, well, if we don't get payment in the next, 12 hours, we're going to have to move that shipment on to another state, another country, someone else. And so, that's not typically how state procurement works. Typically how state procurement works is we say we want to buy this many of this thing, and we put up an offer sheet. And someone says, well, I can do it for this cost. Now what we're saying instead is we need this many of these masks, these gloves, these gowns to keep doctors and nurses protected. How much is it going to cost us? And in that environment, you're in a situation where you've got to do what you've got to do. You've still got to try to vet people. You've got to run them through processes, but it's a very imperfect process because you're never dealing with the direct supplier. So if the federal government had just said, hey, 3M, we're taking over production or whatever the company is, and we're going to do distribution based on the numbers we've seen. Now we're not competing against each other, and there's no middleman. We're not in a situation where we're talking to, a venture capital firm or someone else who's gone out and bought up a bunch of masks. We're talking directly to the person who has the product, and we don't have that luxury because we're out here competing against other states and other countries.
On Thursday this week, WGN reported that there were 3 North suburban hospitals who already reached their capacity for intensive care. And we know that that may look different in different parts of the state. Downstate, you have hospitals that are laying staff off in droves and saying, hey, go to the unemployment line, get unemployment insurance. We'll let you know if and when you can come back and have your job. So how does the governor's office speak to the different issues that are happening in different parts of the state all at once, where some places are full, other places are so empty they're having to lay staff off?
Well, so it's a really good question. I think part of what you're seeing, and you're seeing this around the country, state of New York, other places, that it's not just a single peak for the state. It's really a series of peaks depending on where you are. And when you look at the city of Chicago and that sort of the county region, you're looking at a place that has O'Hare Airport, that has a lot of people going through it every single day, and so it's going to get hit first. And so those hospitals are already in a situation where ICUs are in some places at a critical capacity. If you're further downstate, the hope is that our social distancing measures mean it will never get as bad there as it might get in the Cook County region and the five collar counties. That would be great. But what's more likely to happen is that just because you have fewer people moving through, that peak will be later. And so what we're doing is we're working with the local counties, we're working with the local cities, we're building out alternative care sites to make sure that if that rush happens, we are ready for it. What I'd also say is for anybody who is looking for work in healthcare, if they can make their way up north, there's plenty of folks that need help here. We're seeing issues with congregate care facilities like nursing homes and our Department of Corrections facilities. So there is a lot of need for heroes to lace up here, and we're asking for that.
What is the current status of the state's effort to overhaul the unemployment website so that because when Congress said, look, if you're a part of the gig economy, if you drive for Uber or if you're a self-contractor, if you're a 1099 contractor, for the first time ever, you now qualify for unemployment benefits through this special disaster relief program. But if those people can't apply for unemployment, they're coming to us in the news, they're coming to you, they're coming to their elected officials and saying, where do I go to get this check? The rent is due, I've got to buy groceries. So where do they go? If they can't go to the state website today, what does a person like that do?
So they should still go to the state website. Now, what I would say is we have people working on this every single day, every single hour. We have moved the website to a cloud service that is more stable. Having said that, as you know, the unemployment claims that we're dealing with both as a state and as a nation are unprecedented. We're having such bandwidth issues across the nation that you're seeing Netflix even throttle and slow some folks down. So I would beg for patience. I know this is scary for folks, but but please know that DES staff is working around the clock to make sure that the website is always up, always active, always working. We are not perfect. We obviously beg the indulgence of the people of the state of Illinois. Having said that, we are making sure hour by hour, day by day, people who go to the DES website or call a DES office can get the unemployment benefits that they need, whether they're a gig worker or anything else.
And to add insult to injury, those IDES offices are working remotely, or at least a big chunk of their workforce too. Many of them are dialing in, working from home, as the Department of Innovation and Technology tries to come in. So there's those two issues. There's the bandwidth or the capacity for the website to handle that much traffic. That impacts everyone. But the gig economy workers, that's 1 in 5 nearly 1 in 5 workers in the Illinois economy. There wasn't previously a way for them to apply. Are you saying by telling them to go to the state website that now there is a way that because Senate Republican leader Bill Brady said that could take months still for that new part of the website to be created? Are you breaking news here and saying that they can apply now?
That is fair, and to be clear, Do It is something that's in my purview. DES is not. My understanding is that's an issue that's being worked on. I know Leader Brady sent a letter about it yesterday. What I'm saying is that that folks are going to need to be patient and stay watchful, and that as more news comes out with that, my imagination is that the DES website is where folks will be able to go to get more information. But happy to check back and get more info.
Can you give us a timeline on when you expect that new update to be done? And just to be clear, is Do It managing that part of it as well, or is that an IDES?
Is managing the bandwidth portion of it, making sure that the website has all that it needs to deal with the volume of claims that are coming in. DES is managing what is happening in terms of new parts of the website and that gig employment issue. So let me check back on that. I want to give your viewers an answer that I'm not fully informed on.
Sure. And can you provide any clarity to what Senator Brady said, that it could take months? Is there any better timeline on when that could come into clearer focus?
I've been updated on it. I don't know about his timeline. I saw the letter, obviously, but I would want to check with the Department of Employment and Security on that.
Stay safe, be well. Thank you for signing on and joining us. Deputy Governor Kriz Mitchell from Chicago. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we're back in just a moment.
We're family.
It's good to all be together. Gotta be there when family needs you.
Talk about a win-win.
Sunday night. A great night to spend time with family. And these guys are my family, too.
Being on this team is a rocket ride.
True that.
Good times.
I freaking love it.
Great mysteries.
It's on.
Case solved.
To the best team in town.
New NCIS Los Angeles and NCIS New Orleans. Tonight on CBS.
We were trying to do some updating to our kitchen, and we went in and talked to Matt in the store. I felt like he was kind of gaining an idea of my personality and what I wanted, and so he's like, hey, I think I found something you're really gonna like. They were very meticulous and very particular about it, which I loved. They were clean, they picked up after themselves. I love our granite. Everybody that comes in always wants to touch it, and they're like, whoa, this is really different, and I was thrilled with the whole process as a whole. I'm thrilled with how it's all turned out.
Everyone needs to kick back and relax. Here at Ritchie's Furniture, we stock 100 recliners, lift chairs, and motion groups. And we have Ritchie's low price to save you more with 24 months same as cash financing.
Come to Ritchie's Care Recliners.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Breathe cleaner, fresher air with an iWave ionization purifier system sold and installed by Edelman. Improve your indoor air quality and reduce airborne particles that can cause respiratory problems with an iWave air purifier. Kills airborne viruses, bacteria, and molds, and reduces allergens, odors, and dust particles as it safely treats the air throughout the home or in the workplace. The iWave produces no harmful byproducts and can be installed in minutes. We're offering 0% financing for 12 months and as low as $65 per month. Breathe easy. Call Edelman today.
Ready to sell your home in 2020? With a guaranteed offer from Ryan Dallas Real Estate, skip the process of listing your home and go straight to sold. Closing in as little as 3 weeks. Stay hassle-free with Ryan Dallas Real Estate's guaranteed offer. It's selling made simple.
You're watching Capital Connection from the Illinois State Capitol.
Welcome back. We're joined now remotely by House Republican Mike Murphy. He joins us from his home office in Springfield. Representative, good to have you with us.
Great to be here, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Before your time as an elected official in Springfield, you owned and operated the restaurant Charlie Parker's in Springfield, and that was your business. That was your lifeblood, your life's work there. First of all, I expect that you probably keep in touch with other restaurant owners. Bars and restaurants are some of the very first businesses to really feel the economic pinch of this public health crisis. How much longer can restaurants survive without customers?
It's definitely a challenge. You know, some of them are trying to survive with drive up and carry out and curbside pickup, and you can come in to some degree and pick up and carry out. But it's a struggle. Even those that were set up for drive ups are doing okay, but their volumes are down, and then the ones who were not set up for that type of business are really struggling. Some tried it for a week and just no longer doing it. So we have many who are totally shut down, and it's definitely a strain. There's a lot of stress, a lot of concern. I talk to them almost on a daily basis. I have a group that I text with and send them out information on when new programs come up, and just to talk and see how they're doing. But there's a lot of concern out there for sure.
There's concern. There's also some looking for solutions. You mentioned there are many of these, not only restaurants or bars, but there are other types of businesses that are trying to find creative ways, safe ways to conduct essential business while the state and the governor's office still grapples with this public health crisis. Are there any safe recommendations or good practice, best practices that you've seen from some in the restaurant industry as they try to, for example, some bars have asked local officials to relax some of their fees, to relax some of their practices so that they can sell some of their items in bulk. Are there any ideas like that you as a former restaurant owner or you as a current elected official could support that might throw a lifeline to some of these businesses?
I'm looking for all kinds of ways to help this industry get back on its feet. One thing is the curve starts flattening out. I hope we would start opening up these. And one of the suggestions I've made, maybe not at the 100% capacity that they could have, but maybe at 50%, and have every other table so there's still social distancing going on, and different ways to promote this industry to get back on its feet, because it is definitely struggling right now. Not only the business owners, but we have unbelievable amount of people out of work. You know, the restaurant industry is a major employer in the state of Illinois and throughout the country, and we have a lot of people who are missing their weekly paycheck and tips, and it's just a struggle.
Yeah, and for people like that, we heard from Deputy Governor Kriz Mitchell, and the state is trying to grapple with its unemployment website. What are you telling constituents who come to you and say, I'm having a hard time logging on for unemployment, or maybe they're a gig economy worker who doesn't have that classification available to them yet? What do you say to those workers, or what message do you have for the governor's office as they try to bring this new tab, essentially, of the unemployment website online?
Yeah, it's been a big struggle. It's probably been the #1 issue that we've dealt with. Even though both of my staff are working from home, we get phones. Whenever somebody calls our office, they immediately get an email, and they send me the voice message, or they deal with themselves. But almost entirely, it's been unemployment issues. People just cannot get on the website. They're kicking them out for one reason or another, even though they're putting the accurate information in. And so we've been trying our best to help them deal with the system, but it's terrible out there. We got these people, most of them are used to getting the check every week, and they, you know, 2 or 3, 4 weeks now, and they haven't got paid. It's definitely a struggle on it. We need to look at maybe think outside the box, maybe bring in a independent private consulting company to help us get this unemployment issue taken care of. I know that Leader Durkin has made that suggestion to the governor, and I wish the governor would take him up on that offer and try to look at other solutions, because it's not working.
And it's not as though It's not as though the tech world is some mystery to this governor. He founded the Tech Hub 1871 and has many contacts in the city of Chicago that are some of the world premier leaders in that industry. But that illustration that you provided, where your constituents living in Springfield calling saying they're getting kicked off, that doesn't match at all what Governor Pritzker said in a press conference on Wednesday. He said, in fact, they're removing hurdles, they're removing those early processes where you have to go through all these hoops and red tape to qualify for unemployment. He said that process has never been easier. What's really happening here? Does the governor have a full grasp on what's going on?
I don't know. Before this interview, I was checking some things, and one of the post on Facebook is not my constituent, but was in a different rep's area, just posted and says he's been struggling for 4 days to get through the Department of Unemployment. And so it's still a problem. You know, we need to fix it. And you mentioned, you know, we have a lot of good consulting companies in Chicago. We've got a great one here in Springfield on LRS. I'm sure that they're used to dealing with companies to help them figure out problems. There's a lot of opportunities there, and we need to do this immediately, because these people who aren't getting their checks is just a shame.
All right, Representative Murphy, thank you for dialing on. Thanks for joining us here. We'll stay in touch, and stay safe. Be well.
Art, you stay safe. I'm glad you're feeling well.
Thanks, you too. All right, we're back in just a moment. Stay with us.
We were looking for a lawn care service. I saw Spring Green drive by, so I decided to give him a call for a free estimate. I thought my husband would think they were a little bit too pricey, but come to find out, they were very affordable.
The average homeowner invests $55 per visit with Spring Green.
This is Krista Taylor, and I'm the Marketing Director of Carriage Crossing of Champaign. The health and well-being of our residents are top priority. And so at this time, we are currently offering virtual tours of the community so that you are able to see the services that we're able to provide for you. Again, we hope that everybody is doing well during this time of need, and we are here for you. I would love to set up that virtual tour with you, so call us soon.
Here's to the essential workers, the ones who must keep going, to plant crops, to care for animals, big and small, to care for patients and for family. Because you can't stop, we won't stop. Whether you grab your must-haves in-store or order online and use our drive-thru. Because together, we are strong. Because we serve the hardest working people in America at Blaine's Farm and Fleet.
Hi, I'm Keenan Swanson from The Roofing Dog. You've watched my brother and I grow up on TV through the years, and now I'm happy to say I'm a part of our customer service team. I can come out and meet with you, tell you more about myself and our business, and go over the details of your job. I truly look forward to working directly with you on your roofing project from start to finish. Please consider The Roofing Dog for all your roofing needs. From our family to yours, thank you for choosing The Roofing Dog.
Hi, it's Jan from Toyota. As part of your community, we're here to help you during these challenging times.
Keeping your Toyota safe and reliable is important, especially right now. Many of our service centers are open. Schedule service online and drop off and pick up your vehicle with no contact. Need to replace your old vehicle? Most Toyota dealers offer online shopping and will defer your first payment for 90 days.
We're here for you. Contact your local Toyota dealer to see how they can help. Toyota.
The Weiner Companies has been buying, selling, and managing Champaign County real estate for almost 50 years. If you have rental property, call the Weiner Companies today. We are your rental, real estate, and property management experts.
You're watching Capital Connection from the Illinois State Capitol.
We're getting our first look at the toll the coronavirus could take on the Illinois economy, not just in the short term, but also in the years to come, especially around how much the state budget could be hurting. Joining us now is Professor Ken Kriz from the University of Illinois Springfield, the professor of public administration, also the director of the Institute for Illinois Public Finance. Professor Kriz, good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Mark. Glad to be here.
How bad is it?
Well, it's going to get pretty bad. Even in the low severity pandemic, which, if you ask me, we've already kind of gone past. Even in the low severity pandemic, you're talking about if we have a quick recession and a strong recovery, what we call a V-shaped recovery, you're talking about the state losing over the course of the next 2 years about $4 billion in revenue, a little over $4 billion.
Over the course of
2 calendar years. In the next 2 calendar years, we'll lose about $4 billion. If we get to the moderate severity pandemic, you're talking about a loss somewhere in the range of $6 billion over 2 years. And then in the worst case scenario, you're talking about $8 billion in lost revenue. And that's just in the big three. That's just in income tax, individual income tax, corporate income tax, and sales tax.
That basically eats up all of Governor Pritzker's proposed progressive or graduated income tax. He was looking to bring in about an extra $3 to $3.5 billion a year by taxing people who make north of $250,000 a year at a higher income tax rate. That money, all that extra money that he wanted to spend on other projects, you're saying that hole just got completely wiped out?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know if that particular, I don't want to make a direct, again, link between that, but I know that that's the size of the hole.
Certainly this study is a big start. It's a big mile marker on the road to recovery, at least in measuring this first crater in the economy, and then going from there. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how these numbers start to shake out as we get closer to a full accounting of the impact here.
Yeah, I agree. And then, you know, one of the things that I've always tried to stress is, you know, we will find a way through this. Somehow we will all find a way through this. What I hope is that this teaches us some lessons going forward.
Professor Kriz, a lot of interesting information. The universe of information is growing larger as we speak, as we're all looking for new ways to measure this crisis. But thank you for signing on. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to keeping in touch as we move forward. Stay safe.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. Wish you all the best. Everybody stay healthy and stay at home.
All right, we're back in just a moment.
Almost all of our clients are retired. They want to know how much they can spend, how much of their spending is going to be coming from their investment portfolio. If you have a pension, should you take a lump sum? When should I claim Social Security? There's a lot of components to retirement planning that most people just aren't equipped to deal with on their own. At the simplest level, we're going to use all of our financial resources to live the best life possible, to accomplish your most important life goals, not just financial goals, life goals.
Here's some great news. One stop for all car and truck repairs, plus a great tire selection. Tires Plus is tires plus routine auto maintenance, plus electrical work, plus brake service, plus air conditioning repairs, plus check engine light diagnosis, plus tire rotation. The Plus is in everything they do, and they'll match any locally advertised prices. There's so much Plus, we ran out of time to tell you about the great selection of tires. Tires Plus and all Tires Plus Auto Care. They fix everything.
Evergreen Place is an active assisted living community, perfect for the next stage of life. Every day is filled with opportunities to keep minds and bodies strong. From book clubs to cooking classes, gardening to fishing, seniors will find just the right thing to keep feeling great and loving life. Give us a call or visit us online to schedule your tour today. Evergreen Place, the place to be.
Sloan Implement knows there are challenges ahead. As a family-run business since 1931, we are farmers at heart, and we are in this with you. We've taken steps to support your health during this time. We want you to know we're here like we've always been to help our farmers, agricultural retailers, and our lawn and garden customers through parts pickup, online and phone ordering, outdoor equipment viewings, equipment demos, and more. Sloan Implement, a family-run business since 1931.
And that does it for us this week. Thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again next week, same time on Sunday. For Capital Connection, I'm Mark Maxwell.